It's my good friend Sean. Thank you for taking some time to talk with me. We're out here in the beautiful Wachita, Arkansas, on the Wachita Lake, the site of much indigenous history and lore. I'm out here with my brother Sean. So if you want to start just by introducing yourself and telling us what you do.
Well, man, my name is Sean Garrison, as you know. And what I do is I try and create a better world for all of us. I'd say it's my belief that everybody has two births. You know, you have your physical birth, the day you're brought into this world in a human body, and then you have the day that you flower into your consciousness. What's interesting that I once read, a book by Eckhart Tolle, is that, you know, once you flower into your consciousness, it's up to you to choose to live the conscious life or not. But that first flowering into consciousness is kind of divine intervention of sorts. So it's been a beautiful ride. My flowering into my consciousness happened in San Marcos about 6 years ago. I was living there, living on the water, connecting with the earth, and it just kind of happened. I can't pinpoint the exact day. But what it really did for me is I'd always been interested in nature. I'd always been interested in design and architecture and the built environment and how the built environment interacts with the ecology. But I had many other interests. You know, I'm a musician. I'm a writer. I like being an outdoorsman, hiking, doing yoga, physical activities, and I like cooking. I like to think I'm a good chef. And the thing that was really interesting for me when I first really started awakening was that before the awakening process, everything seemed in opposition to everything else. It was like I had to choose one thing. It was like I was so afraid of the old adage, "Jack of all trades, master of none," and I wanted to be a master. I wanted to master craft, but I always assumed that in order to master a craft, you have to sacrifice other interests in your life in order to focus on the one true interest, and that frightened me. And I think one of the biggest initial lessons I learned in my awakening was that everything comes from heart space. Everything comes from inner being, comes from the soul, the source energy. And through it, everything is interconnected. Now, of course, that means we are all as living organisms interconnected, and that this universe and everything in it is just interconnected, and there's the illusion of separation. But I'm talking more internally in terms of an individual and how they cope with their humanity on this planet. And what I mean by that is, I looked at these endeavors as I said, well, you know, I either have to spend time getting better as a chef or getting better as a musician or getting better as a designer, and I can't do all three. But once I started choosing to live the conscious life and occupying heart space in every waking moment of that life, it became very apparent to me through the feeling of it that every creative outpouring of my soul comes from the same source. And regardless of what outlet it decides to take, it's the same energy. And by giving your consciousness to that energy at all times, then no matter what you do, it uplifts the energy. And therefore everything you do becomes uplifted, whether or not you're working on this or just that. Of course, there's the whole due diligence of being human. You have to chop wood and carry water. Right. You can't just not play guitar at all and expect to get better at guitar. Right. But the point is that you don't have to compartmentalize your life, and you don't have to compartmentalize your society or your community. And it can all come from the same space and coexist simultaneously within your heart.
So it's a co-creation rather than exerting all of the effort as an individual or sacrificing all effort altogether and expecting that to come to you. It's a co-creation with your environment.
Exactly. It's a co-creation of your environment in terms of external values, and in terms of internal values, it's a co-creation of all the passionate creative endeavors of your life. So if you want to be the best musician you can possibly be, you have to give yourself to your passions fully. It can't just be giving yourself to music. You have to give yourself to every part of yourself. You have to be in line with yourself. If part of being in line with yourself is being an architect and a musician, you can't focus on one and not the other and expect to be the complete version of yourself.
When you say being in line with yourself, for those who might be less adept with these concepts, what does that mean to you? What do you mean by that?
Being in line with yourself is being truly consciously aware. Not doing things because you feel... That's a tough question, because
means different things for different people.
It means different things for different people. And the thing is, until you've had that first awakening, it's really hard to put your finger on it. It's like a finger pointing at the moon.
Right.
You focus on the finger, you miss all the heavenly glory.
Right.
And the thing is that when I mean being in line with yourself, I mean being honest with yourself and appreciating the humanness that you are. You know, humans aren't perfect. Humans want this and want that. And we feel for various reasons, whether it's because of the environment we're brought up, because of what our parents put on us, or what we put on ourselves in terms of pressures and societal strictures and moral taboos. We feel that we have to focus on one thing or we have to focus on another thing. I mean, I went to college right out of high school because I felt that, and not just me, but my parents and everyone else in my immediate life felt that that's what you're supposed to do after high school. After high school, you're supposed to go to college. And if I had to say one thing to graduating high school students in this country, it's that if you don't have something that you're passionate about, if you're signed up to go to college and you don't know what you're going to college for, then get out. Because if you do it for the wrong reasons, if you do it blindly, if you do it unconsciously, if you do it without knowing, then all you're going to do is waste your time and your money, or your time and somebody else's money. And you're going to wish you had both of those things back. Because I ended up going to college and doing very well and doing something that I was very passionate about. But I didn't start working on that degree. I didn't start working on that industry, that passion, and I didn't start taking it seriously until I had already been in college for 3 years. Those first 3 years were a complete waste. I could have been traveling, seeing the world, saving that money, not wasting my time in a classroom that I wasn't taking seriously. But I did it because of because of an idealism that was falsely placed on me. And so being one with yourself, it applies to spiritual awakening, which of course if you haven't had any spiritual awakening, that's kind of a more or less divine intervention. I can't tell you how to do that. But I can kind of give some guidelines as to how to maybe get there. And one way that I would suggest getting there is that don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. And don't allow what other people think is best for you dictate what your decisions are. Because only you know what's best for you. And the more you listen to your heart, to your feeling, to your gut, to this implicit knowing that's inside of you when you think about something and it feels right versus feeling wrong, then that's what you have to go with. Because even some people that are asleep, they can even say, well, they make the wrong decision for them, but they say, oh, this was my decision, but it was a decision they made with their head because there is so much egotistical stress and pressure and fear and anxiety put into that decision. There's so many people that live their lives based on fear. My parents are one.
Right. This is a great talking point because I have a question that's right along these lines. Can you distinguish between feeling-based intelligence, which I guess would be heart intelligence, and thought-based intelligence? Feeling something as opposed to thinking it. Somebody who has a thought that, well, maybe going to college might be best for me. How can they distinguish between a feeling of something as opposed to thinking it?
Well, the best way I can describe that is, it's difficult to put into words because there's no way you can feel something for somebody. So anybody who's watching these interviews, there's no way I can tell them this is how you're going to feel it, because I can't tell them how to feel it.
Right.
But so I will say that making decisions with your heart space instead of your head space gets easier the more you experience feeling. But basically, you just have to allow yourself to feel. Don't question feelings. Don't stop feelings. Don't force feelings to happen or not happen. Just open yourself up to feeling in general, whether it feels bad or feels good or feels scary or feels happy or sleepy or anxious. Whatever the feeling is, allow yourself to feel it. And don't think about it. Don't make conclusions intellectually based on that feeling. Just in terms of being able to distinguish feeling more. Because eventually you're going to have feelings, and you have a human brain, and the human brain is given to you as a tool so that you can navigate this third-dimensional physical world. So it is important to be able to rationalize and deduce based on feelings, but the feeling has to be the determining factor. And in order to get yourself more in line with your feelings, You have to allow yourself to feel without interjection from thoughts that might try and stop you from feeling anything for whatever reason. One of the most important meditations that I learned is to sit there and calm yourself for a few minutes and then turn inward and just observe everything you're feeling at that moment. If you're in school, maybe you're stressed out about an exam, or maybe you feel like this isn't the career for you, or maybe you're very happy about the career you've chosen or the degree you've chosen, or maybe you're doing very well in school and you're happy about it. Maybe your girlfriend just broke up with you, or your boyfriend just broke up with you, or maybe you're getting engaged, or maybe, your parents are happy or upset with you. Whatever's going on in your life that makes you feel anything, sit there and at that moment, take an internal survey of what feelings you're feeling. And don't think about why you're feeling them. You'll know why you're feeling them. Just observe the feeling of the emotion. Just observe it. Feel what it feels like to feel that feeling. I know that's a lot of feels, but you have to just allow yourself to feel it. When you start allowing yourself to feel things more, it becomes easier to distinguish feeling more. And when you can distinguish feeling more, it's easier to know what's intrinsically right and wrong for you. I know that that's easier said than done.
Definitely.
But
so let's swap topics a little bit. How has your budding of awareness influenced your life as an architect and designer?
That's a great question. These things kind of sorry about that. These things kind of go hand in hand, and it's kind of like there's two topics that I want to address. There's 2 points I want to make, and one doesn't preclude the other. They both work simultaneously with each other. One is about the industry, which I specifically have knowledge of, and one is about what you choose to do with your time in general as a professional. Design, to me, is one of the greatest charges of mankind, because basically you're committing yourself to a moral obligation to make the built environment function better both for humanity and for ecology. And that's just how I've always felt about the industry. Especially, to design a good building or design a good piece of furniture, to make things that work better, to make things that make life better for all life, that's a very important goal. There's an architect named William McDonough who has created a concept called cradle to cradle, where most merchandise, you talk about cradle to grave, where how do we use every part of this product from start to finish. But his concept, cradle to cradle, implies that there is no end. This thing is constantly recyclable. There's no waste. There's no byproduct. One day, a great example is William McDonough was walking in a store in California, and he saw a little yellow rubber ducky for children for a bath toy. And on the side of that object's packaging, there was a warning label that said, "Warning: this product is made from a material that might be hazardous to your child's health." And he just thought, my God, we are designing and manufacturing objects that not only hurt the environment but hurt ourselves. Why are we doing this? So he sought to do the opposite of that, and he created products such as a blanket which you swaddle a baby in, which you wrap a baby in, a newborn baby, and the blanket actually nourishes the baby with nutrients through osmosis. The blanket has nutrients embedded in it so that when it touches the baby's skin, it nourishes the baby. This is the potential that designers have to change the world. Buildings that actually not only don't hurt the environment, but actually bolster the environment through humans' use of them. This is the most important role that designers can have, and there's lots of industries that can affect change. Economists can affect change. There's a Chilean economist named Manfred Maxineff who has 5 fundamental postulates of what an economy should be. It's the economy is to serve the people, not the people to serve the economy. That growth is not the same thing as development, and development does not necessarily guarantee growth, or is not necessarily the same thing as growth. That the economy is a subset of the environment, and without the environment there is no economy. And there's a 5th one I can't remember. But the point is that any industry can effectively change the world through conscious intention, But the reason I chose architecture, other than the reason that I just inherently felt called to it and felt that's why I was put here, is that I feel like I can enact the most change in that industry. That I as an individual, can touch the most lives, not just human lives, but all life on the earth, by creating consciously built architectural spaces. The other point I wanted to make, so that's about my industry. You know, architecture and design is an industry in which human beings can use critical thinking skills in an innovative way to better the environment and mankind. The other thing I want to say about professionalism, or being a professional, or choosing what you want to do with your life, choosing what you're going to go to college for, choosing not to go to college because you want to do this thing, is that anybody on any level can put their work to the highest possible level, can be consciously aware, can occupy heart space, and can put that type of critical thinking skills innovatively. Because what inspires me to be an architect, what inspires me to use critical thinking skills in an innovative way, is my conscious awareness and my drive through my heart space in order to make the world a better place. And so by occupying that heart space, just as I was saying earlier in the interview, how all of these things came from the same space, whether it was cooking a meal or playing a song or designing a building, the same applies infinitely with anything humans can do, whether it's if you're an athlete or if you're a apartment manager and you manage a series of apartment blocks, or anything and everything. If you own a donut shop, or if you own a tire company and you put tires on people's automobiles, everything that you do, you can do in a way to revolutionize the paradigm in the industry in which we work and live. You know, we feel necessary as humans to accept the state of the world as it is, and we don't feel, there's many of us that don't feel a drive to change it. They're like, oh, that's too much effort, or oh, it is the way it is, or we can't do anything about it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Right. Well, thank you, man. That's solid points you bring up, and we'll be covering some more points in a future interview.
Okay.